Again, thanks, Kevin. Welcome back to those folks that were with us yesterday, and welcome to those folks that are new to the call. My name is David DeRosa. I'm the president of the BC Principals and Vice Principals Association, and I've been a principal and a teacher for 28 years. I'm currently working from home, like so many of you, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Let's make sure I can do this. There. Before we get started, I'd just like to acknowledge that many First Nations, we are working on many different First Nations lands today, and whose traditional territories I'd like to acknowledge. I'm working on the traditional territory of the Okanagan, the Tunaxa, and the Sinixt people, and I'm grateful for that. Just a quick reminder that we are in just an incredible transformative change in education, and it's sometimes we forget that the world is in this same transformative change process, and with that we can't lose sight of the importance of the safety and the health priorities and continuing to learn together in that context. What we're hoping to do today is to provide some insights and some opportunities for developing learning continuity capacity, and not losing sight of equity, accessibility, and connection. We recognize that what we're using is a technology, but it's a technology that we feel takes into consideration those guiding principles of equity, accessibility. I'd just also like to remind folks that it's really important to look after our there's so many cliches, but cliches exist for a reason, and it's critically important. The research backs me up on this, that we need to take pauses in our day as we go through significant change to re-energize ourselves and look after ourselves. You know, if we don't have that oxygen mask accessible, how can we help others if we're not looking after ourselves? The vision for today is to do maybe a quick review of some of the things that Kirsten and Andrew went through yesterday, and then possibly a little bit of a deeper dive. As Kevin mentioned, we've muted folks out there across BC, but the chat box is open, and if you have any questions as we kind of go through these processes, we encourage you to ask them. Yesterday, we were about 35 minutes total for the webinar. Today, we're comfortable with taking a little bit more time and answering some questions if you've got some technical questions or any other comments or concerns. So please don't hesitate to throw those questions in the chat box, and Kevin and Shawn will moderate that. What I thought I would do as a start, different from yesterday, was just share one of my favorite features of the platform. And what I've got here is basically a screenshot from the educators section. So you can access that by the left-hand tab there, or from the dashboard under network, and you can connect to learners and leaders. I'm going to just use Trina from Princeton as an example. If you look over by Trina's profile sort of card there, you can see that she's listed a series of tags that reflect either her interest or her experience. And I'm just going to click on inclusivity. When I do that, you'll notice that the platform actually then filters educators specifically tagged with that inclusivity tag. And so there's, in fact, 74 folks who either have a professional interest or specific experience with inclusivity in their repertoire. If I click on resources over again on the left-hand side, there's an interesting filter process. Any of the resources that are tagged with inclusivity are now available for scrolling and review. So there's this stickiness to the tag between the educators and the resources. And so it's just a little tip that I thought I'd share that's super helpful for me. As an organization and as a principal, I use our leadership standards. And so quite often I'll start with a specific principal who I know well, and then click on that tag around an area of interest, and then suddenly I'll find a whole bunch of other people amongst the thousands of folks who are out there. It allows me to really narrow my search quickly, and I can then engage through other means in the platform. I can connect and reach out very effectively and save a lot of time. And so I just wanted to point that out. If I click on one of the resources from the list, here's an example. What I can then do is go a little deeper, find a little bit more about it. And in fact, this particular resource was posted by Matt in Vancouver, and I can actually reach out to Matt in lots of different ways in the platform. We won't go into that, but I just wanted to emphasize that tags are a very effective way to connect both resources and to people who have experience and expertise in those areas. I can favorite that. I can connect with Matt. If Matt posts another resource, I can actually turn on a notification, and I'll receive an email from the system to say, hey, Matt just posted a new resource. Would you be interested in looking at that? And then at my leisure, I can go and do that. I also have the capacity to develop what we refer to as a bundle, which would be sort of the equivalent of a file folder. And I can quickly add a group of resources under a specific category. But I'm going to stop there because I believe Andrew is going to show us how to do that. And I'm going to move us on to our next presenter. And that will be Kirsten Rezansoff. So I will move out of sharing my screen, and I think I can do that. And trying to get it to come up.
I'll just start talking while you're figuring that out, David.
Perfect.
So, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again. Not see you, but be here with you again. I thought today I had a look at the classroom channel that was emailed out yesterday, and thank you to those people who responded there about yesterday's session. And I thought it feels to me like something that teachers would like to see here is kind of a walkthrough of what this is going to look like for the end user. What does my page, my classroom page, that front door for my classroom, what's that going to look like for students? So I'm going to walk through that side of it, and then show you what I've created for our staff as well, and then briefly go over again how to actually build that resource, which Andrew did yesterday. So that one's a bit of a review. So I'll just start sharing my screen here. So you should be looking at my email box right now. And you can see I've received an email from myself. So we're imagining I'm a family, and here I am checking my email, and I've got this welcome to your 6-7 classroom. And then I just click on this link, and it takes me right to the classroom page. So as I explained yesterday, we aren't actually using separate classrooms right away as a school, but this is planned ahead for sort of 2 weeks from now. So my students will find the name of the classroom up here. I've got a little picture over there. Welcome back to school. Here's the description, which just for me is reminding them that the weekly learning plan, which I talked about yesterday, is at the bottom. And then any of the resources that they're going to need to complete that learning plan are on here. And I'll refer to those once we've actually looked at the learning map. So here's the learning plan for April 13th to 16th. So families will open that, students will open that, and there's nothing in the math section because I don't actually teach math. My colleague will be filling that in. So here's all of their reading and writing stuff they'll do that week. Daily silent reading, daily reading to someone else. And then here's where we get into needing some of the resources on the BetterEducate page. Listen to the first part of Sun, the next book in the Giver series. Videos will be added daily. So again, if we go back to this page, you can see right here is Sun part, when I point at it, you can't see it. It says Sun Part 1. So kids can just play whenever they need to, whenever they want to. They can stop it partway through. And that's me recording myself in a Zoom meeting all alone reading the book. So they can watch that. They're going to create an illustration, so no resources needed for that. And then I have, at the end of the week, I actually want them to check in and answer some questions. So that's down here as a link. Sun questions for April 16th. They click on that. Takes them right into my my Google questions there. They just answer this. Obviously, they have to start with their name. They answer these questions, and that's just using Google Forms and linking it into the site. We also have on here setting up a journal. They don't need any resources. And then for science, they're going to be working on designing their own experiment to do at home. So I've provided some resources for that. Watch this video that reminds you the steps of a science lab. And then down here under files, they can download the template in Word and just start working on it at home. We also are setting up in our learning plan. I can't remember if I actually put this in here yet. I didn't. Under play and exercise, we'll be asking them to just make sure they're doing their daily physical activity. And then we've set that up as a question in that classrooms feature, which is where you answered that question yesterday. And Andrew talked about this briefly. So they click on here, it links them to this page. What did you do for your 30 minutes of daily activity today? And they can just type it in. And as students answer that, it creates a word cloud. So you can kind of see what everybody's doing. And Andrew's already got one going here. Oh, sorry. I have a million pages open. Here we go. So Andrew asked, tell me one thing you did over spring break. Here are all the answers, and over here on the edge is where the word cloud starts to generate. So you can actually kind of see what everybody's answers were without having to read through every student's work. So that's what the classroom page is going to look like for my students. There's their morning breathing activity that they're going to do with Miss Sarah. And so they check in here at this exact same link that they got in that email every day or every couple of days, and the new resources I will have loaded there. The new learning plan each week will come up at the bottom. And that's the end user. So I think, like as Andrew said yesterday, what's so beautiful about this is that they need nothing but that one link and everything is in one place. Follow your learning map, find all the resources you need in this one place. You don't have to go anywhere else. So that's how I'm going to be using that to set up my classroom. One of the
Kirsten,
things that, yes.
Can you just point out that you've got a contributor there, Ryan?
Oh, yes, of course. So I also have in this resource, and I will show you how to do that right now. Sorry, I have to remember where I am. I have another contributor. So Ryan has posted things on here, my colleague. I have no idea what this file is. I haven't even looked in it. Volunteerism. I'm very excited to find out what he's teaching. So he put that resource on himself because I added him as a contributor by going into, so this is the back end. This is my end of it. I'm logged into my BetterEducate account. I come up here to this green pen and I find all my resources. Here's my classroom. It says inactive, but actually my students can still see it with that link. Inactive just means I didn't post it into those resources where David was showing you can search, because you don't need to see this page, just my students do. So that's what inactive means. So if I come in here, I can invite educators right here. And you can see I've invited Ryan. He's my colleague. He also teaches the grade 6-7s. So he has all the same privileges I have to editing this page. He can change that welcome message. He can add videos. He can add links and all those same things. And you just search any member, anybody else who's in BetterEducate, you can find in there. So that is where I edit it. So if we have a look here, there's the title that you saw on that page. Here's my welcome message. We can look, and these steps are labeled as step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but don't let that hinder you. You can go any order you want. At the beginning, I felt like I had to go through every step every time, but you can go wherever you want. So links and files, there's that math links link that I had on there. There's the link to the Google questions that I have. There's the link to the daily activity. Here are all of my files. And again, to load those, all I need to do is come up with a label and I need to know the link. And then down here for file upload, label it, choose a file from my laptop. Videos, same kind of thing. I just need to know I just need to have the address, put it in there, save video. I've actually ordered these as well because I wanted the breathing to be at the top. Otherwise, it just automatically orders them with the most recent thing, not the most recent thing. The first thing that you ever put on here will be at the top. So I just try to think about what order I want them to be in to make sure it's logical for the kids. So that's where you go to edit your resource. Something else that I did yesterday was, I don't know about you, but our staff is feeling kind of overwhelmed by the number of emails that we've been receiving and all of these really helpful resources and documents that we need, and they're just all saved in my inbox, and I can never, it takes me 10 minutes to find that one piece of paper I'm looking for. So I created another page exactly like that 6-7 page for our staff resources. So now, and I just said, if you see anything missing, let me know. And these are some videos that I created for my staff to help with like BetterEducate, creating a classroom, Zoom basics, putting your videos on BetterEducate. This is a little thing about how I'm approaching this. And then we've got like our links to our school front door page. We received some information from our school district about keeping Zoom secure. Here's our learning plan template, some ministry information about planning, and then our school district procedures for accessing buildings if we want them. So that just kind of puts everything in one space. And again, all I did was copied this link right here and emailed it out to everyone on our staff, and now everyone can access that anytime they want. And Shawn is an editor to this as well, so he can add whatever he thinks we need to see. So that's kind of how I'm approaching things and what it looks like for students, and then also how we're using that as a staff. And I think that's all I have to say, really. Let's stop sharing. There we go.
Kirsten, that's awesome. I appreciate so many. I'm taking notes here. I feel like a kid in college and relearning pedagogy support in many ways. You're supporting the kids, you're supporting each other, and you're connecting with, you're providing a single go-to spot. And then there's all those other things, those resources or tools that you've been using historically throughout the year for kids that they're familiar with, like your Google tools, and all of those things are accessible through, as you put it yesterday, it's like, here's the front door to the school, and here's the door to our classroom. And I think that creates a sense of comfort and almost a sense of safety for kids. There's the familiarity, even though how they're doing it is different. They know that it's you and they trust you, and they're going to follow through with that. That's fabulous. Thank you. Next up, we've got.
Go ahead. One of the things I was talking to Kirsten this morning, actually, is just to touch on her point of, there is so much information right now that we have, and I think the best thing we can do is just if we can streamline it and make it accessible for our staff as much as possible, that's going to take the anxiety down for teachers tenfold. And Kirsten's already had a lot of feedback from teachers in our district about like putting together a resource like that. If you've been around long enough, you used to use First Class. That was actually a function in that program of you'd go to a spot and all those resources would be there. And as you're looking at different platforms, that's kind of what we're getting away from. So kudos to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Shawn. So I think next up we have Andrew McKinley, another teacher who's going to share and take us sort of in a deeper dive into some of the other tools that are going to support his kids as they start this process of learning continuity. Andrew?
Good morning, Dave. Thank you. And my name is Andrew McKinley. I'm a grade 4-5 teacher here in Grand Forks. And just as Dave mentioned, I've got a wife that's a teacher, and I've got 2 university students that have had to leave UVic and come back home. So Wi-Fi is a bit of an issue, so I'm not going to have my video on. Yesterday when we started talking, we're trying to continue in, how are we going to continue on with our kids' education? And last week, Shawn and I had the conversation on how are we going to get them back into our schools, and we were referring to as a portal, but the term front door came in yesterday, and I think when Dave said it's like a front door coming back to the school, and that was a really good analogy for me, because it this is what BetterEducate is providing for us kids. It's providing a front door back into their schools. There's no locks, there's no passwords. It's easy for them to access. It's extremely easy for you as a teacher to not only create it, but to maintain it, to update it on a daily basis if you need to. And it's one simple URL that we can send out to our parents, like Kirsten demonstrated with that simple email. And then our families have access to it. And once they come through that front door, they have access to your classroom, they have access to all your resources, they have access to you. And having conversations with a number of my parents and kids in the last couple of days, that access to us as teachers, sometimes I don't think we appreciate that, but that connection that we have with our students, I think is with the parents I talk to, it's that's one of the things that our kids are really missing. So BetterEducate is going to provide us with that opportunity to get back into our kids' lives, and it's doing it in a super simple way for us as educators. As we went through yesterday, how to create a web page. It's a straightforward, simple process. Kirsten showed us what her schools is going to look like. What I'm going to do today is just quickly go back in. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay, so this is my class's webpage, and this is one we built yesterday. And notice I did change it to front door back to grade 4-5. And as Kirsten went through, there's a description. Here's what I'd like you to do. My guys, they're comfortable with 365 logging into their emails, but they've never used Teams. So this is just a simple little YouTube video that I was able to find. And it's just going to go through that process with them. How do you log into your team account? And again, these are some of the different links that are down below. Not only are they links, but there's also files that we can create. One of the things that is new to me in the last little while in terms of BetterEducate is to create a bundle. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is the fact that I think Shawn said this morning, we have over 450 teachers that have created accounts with BetterEducate in the last couple of days. So right now, a lot of the resources that we're seeing out there are going to be for administration, but we are starting to see more and more things show up that are you'll be able to use as a classroom teacher. So what we can do to create a bundle is we go back into our editor mode, and here's the one that we've been working on. I'm going to go in and I'm going to add something called a bundle. So this is where I can, Kristen explained, here's the 5 simple steps: my title, my description, my video, photos if I want to add photos, any links or files, and then to simply publish. If you look over here on this side of your screen, you're going to see something called the dashboard. So I'm going to start by clicking on my dashboard. I want to go into some of my resources, or I want to create a bundle. So I'm going to click on this one. And I can create something called a bundle. And it's just going to create a spot where I can put some common files that I don't necessarily have to have the kids searching all over the place. They can go in there and they can access these resources, all 3 or 4 of them that I have together. So to create my new bundle, I'm going to click on Create Bundle. And I'm going to say this is my week 1 math. Give it a little description. And then I need to start to look for my bundle. So I'm going to, right here, so I've gone from bundling, naming the bundle, to bundling my items. I'm going to go back into my resources, and I can create a search. So I'm going to do just some basic math resources. So I'm going to click on math, and I'm going to get all the different resources that are available. And as you can see, a lot of them are going to be sort of documents and some research that maybe some of our administrators are using. But as teachers, I want something that I can get into my kids' hands quickly. So I'm just going to simply click on this bundle, and it's going to throw that item up into my binder up at the top. Let's see, there's a few. There we go, there's another one. I'll just add a couple of them for now. So there's my bundle. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to edit it. And I've named it. I've put my bundled items in. Now I want to share that bundle. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to select and highlight that URL. Make sure I get it all. Copy that. And then I need to go back into the editing of my website. And in order to do that, I'm just going to simply click on the green little pen at the top. I'm back into my website. And this is going to be a link I want to add. Called Math Week 1. Post the URL. There we go. And if I go back in now to my web page, and again, so this is the URL that the parents are being sent, so this is what they're going to see. Welcome back. There's my video. And here are my math activities that I'd like my kids to be going through for that first week. And they're just links for them to access. The other option, or the other thing that we're going to start using more of, is this collaborate button. As I said, there's more and more teachers that are starting to join this resource, and what you can do is I can pose a question. I can say, okay, I need some Science 5 activities. Does anyone have any Science 5 activities? So I'm just going to simply click on New Topic, and my title. Sorry. So simple little description of what I'm looking for, and then I simply post it, and that's going to go out to, I think Shawn was saying there's over 3,000 educators now that have signed up for BetterEducate, and 400 and some odd of those are teachers. I'm not going to do this at this point in time because everyone's going to get an email saying that I'm looking for this information. So that's simply, a simple way that we can collaborate with one another.
Andrew, can I just squeeze in there real quick?
Sure.
One of the things when you're doing a collaborator is a resource, the search database on BetterEducate is highly reliant on tags or hashtags. So as you're putting something in there, and if you want to make sure you're tagging your stuff, so it's grade 5 math or just along those lines, how you hashtag, and then it makes people when they're able to search for it in the database, it makes it that much easier for them to dig it up. So just one of those things, hashtags are a pretty common thing. And anytime you post something in BetterEducate, it's good practice to do that to help colleagues. And it's just, all it is just keywords.
Thanks, Shawn. So just something like grade 5 science?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So that's, another functionality of BetterEducate. We've got, we can put bundles in, and we can now start to collaborate with one another as educators all over the province. So I think that's it for me, Dave. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. I think I've been sort of watching the chat box, and there's a couple of questions there. Kevin, have you got any questions that folks have asked that maybe we can address this morning?
Yeah, thank you for that, Dave. So a question that's come up a couple of times in terms of publishing numerous resources to kids over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, and how we keep all of those resources organized. Now, Kristen, you did respond to that, but perhaps for everybody who's with us today, maybe you could answer that question in a little more detail.
Absolutely. I really don't know how this is going to work. We're all trying this stuff out, but my plan is just those resources, I'll just take them down. So the video you saw, that's Sun Chapter 1. Once my students have finished the Google questions for that week, and I know that everyone is kind of finished reading those sections, I will take those videos down and they'll be replaced with the new ones. So some resources will always stay. Like we might use the same breathing video for a month, and then once I'm changing it to something new, I'll just take it down. The science lab activity, once everybody's downloaded that worksheet, it doesn't need to be on there anymore, so I'll remove it. And anyone who needs it, I could email it to them individually if they need. But just like in your classroom, things stay on the wall for a week, they stay on the wall for a month, depending on what you're doing, and then you take them down.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. So any other questions out there, just please put them in the chat box and we'll take advantage of Kirsten and Andrew while they're here with us. Anything else anybody who is a panelist would like to share in terms of other tools within the platform?
Kevin, I think we went over just the educator part yesterday, but does Dave want to just touch a little bit more on filling out your profile, so making sure that you've got tags appropriate? So, part of that whole design process is trying to recognize people that have certain talents or backgrounds that people can reach out to. That's probably beyond your district. And doing that when you're filling out your profile, you can have that set up so you can actually go in and people can search based on those interests. Dave, do you feel like taking a look at that?
Sure thing. Yeah, I can do that. I think I get a sense of what we're looking at. So let me just share my screen. There, can you see that? Okay, so essentially, I always kind of go back to the dashboard and have the options for me to look at in the dashboard. I'm not sure that everybody sees plans right now. This is specific to principal growth plans and school plans. So your dashboard may look a little differently as a BC teacher. So I'll just start with profile. And again, this is a component specific to principals and vice principals, but I'll just go with my profile. And one of the, I think, really nice features in BetterEducate is there's a consistency to the processes for creating a resource, creating a bundle, any of the things that you do where you're editing something or creating or developing it to share. It looks like this same screen here. And as Kirsten pointed out, I'm a rule follower, so I would go step 1, step 2, step 3. And it took me a while to realize I could just jump right over here to experience tags and start there. So I just did that. And what you'll see right away is these are the tags that I've highlighted, and they're sitting at the top as a reminder that compassionate systems is something that I'm very interested and experienced with. And organizational leadership is also. But you'll notice that there's these little numbers associated with each tag. That's an indication of the number of educators, whether they're teachers, principals, vice principals, district principals, and we have some assistant soups, directors as well in the platform. So there's a broad range of folks who have obviously said that organizational leadership is something that they're either very interested in or they feel comfortable in making a statement that that's an area of expertise. And so if I were to click on organizational leadership right now, I would take myself out of that tag. If I would click on it again, that's how quickly and easily we can build tags. You might see some other sort of strange things like July 3rd or that kind of thing. Some folks in our PVP organization have been tagging resources specific to an event. And to be honest, I'm not sure that you'll see all of those. So that's sort of the good news. But you can see that there's a significant number of tags that are there. If there isn't a tag that reflects your own experience or expertise, where you end up developing that or creating that tag is when you create your resource. So for example, if I'll just sort of scaffold on Andrew's math resource. If there was a specific aspect of mathematics that you felt required a tag, when you build your resource for your kids or for your colleagues, then you would create that tag, and that would be then part of your profile. It's really pretty cool and intuitive that way. As far as my biography goes, because I'm a fairly public figure, I've got a little bit of a brief bio here, and the nice thing about that is if I'm traveling to a school district or to an event, I can refer folks directly to my bio that way. I've added some photos, you've seen that one, but also some photos of some of the things that I really enjoy doing, and that's teaching for the West Kootenay Teacher Education Program for UBC, so teacher candidates, and then just some other photos. As far as video goes, I've got a couple of videos there, and that's basically it. But the emphasis, I guess, for what Shawn was referring to is this ensuring that experience tags are things that we add to our profile because of their stickiness for resources and connecting with other people. And I think if there's anything that I've just so appreciated about my use of the tool is how I've connected with folks across the province. It overcomes that geography and challenges related to distance. And I think that for me plays into one of my core professional roles, which is to develop and sustain equity for educators and professionals in our sector and our system, so that they can provide supports and for children. And so for me, this little part of the whole process is really important. It's that connection and that sharing piece in support of students and their learning. I hope that helps. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Sorry, Dave, just quickly answering a question. So the question was, is there anything specific new teachers should be tagging in their profile for experience if they don't necessarily have a specialty area in it? And my response to that is that, yes, of course, new teachers are growing in their experience and may not feel that they have a lot of tags. When you go through and you look at the educators who have a great deal of experience on BetterEducate, they have a number of different tags. I think the value for new teachers is being able to follow people who have shared on BetterEducate and have a certain level of expertise or experience in a particular area. And so, not unlike Facebook, I'm not a Facebook person. When you connect with those people and follow those people, they may be posting resources that are of interest to you, and then you'll get continuous updates through your email account that you've used when they post items that would be of interest to you. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, good point, Kevin. I kind of forgot that. Just in terms of when looking at my own here, if you look at up here on the top of my little card there, if you were to follow me with the star, anytime I post a resource, you would get a notification if you choose to receive the notifications. So that's the part of the connectivity that I was referencing earlier. And so if it's an area of my learning and professional growth that I'm looking to expand, I can choose to follow folks based on those experience tags. And as they share information, they can do that. The other thing that I think is it's been super powerful is also right beside the follow tab is this chat function. And so if I were to click on that, I could have a chat conversation with myself. My kids are all in their 20s. They would say I do that frequently, and it's kind of disturbing for them. But the really nice thing is the ability to reach out and chat with folks and ask questions. And right now, if there's ever been a time in my professional experience, which is, I mentioned almost 30 years, this is just a very unique opportunity to be vulnerable and to reach out and connect with folks and ask questions about our own professional capacity. We're doing things now that the majority of us have never done. And we're doing it for all the right reasons. And that's learning continuity for our children and our students in our classroom and in support of our colleagues. So I would encourage folks to do that connection piece, reach out, chat, ask those questions. And my experience has been the minute you reach out, folks are more than happy to share their perspectives. And if they don't have an answer, they're happy to connect you to people that might.
Okay, thank you for that, David. We did want to keep our session today to under an hour. And as we started the session today, said we're happy to create more webinars for people. As I mentioned, we are recording these 2 webinars. I will send links out to you over the course of the weekend. And once again, please share them with your teacher colleagues. As we mentioned at the outset, and I think you've heard numerous times, really the power and value of BetterEducate is having more and more educators on the platform. We're all doing the same work, and while the context is very different, if we can share and learn from each other through one platform, that will just help all of our students during this unusual and challenging time. I'll just turn over to our panelists for any final comments before we end our time together.
I just want to thank Andrew and Kirsten again for their time. I don't know if the rest of the province knows this, but we work on a 4-day week, so I'm actually asking them to work a Saturday today, and I just can't thank them enough for all their work that they've done in their schools. Kirsten, as you may or may not know, I've worked with her for the past 7 years. Really privileged. She's a strong leader, tons of talent, and lots of things that can offer outside of our building. And Andrew, I've known for close to 20 years, worked beside him at the high school with information technology. And so we're very lucky to have those people in our district. And when we first started on this pandemic and what we're going to do, they were 2 leaders that came up with some stuff right away that was basically trying to help the other teachers in their building. And I think everyone's got the same story. As Dave said, we all want the same thing, and we're all trying to paddle this boat the same way. So just kudos to both of them, and just thanks so much for your time and your energy for this platform and helping teachers.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating. Enjoy your weekend. I think we all need a bit of a break given what the last couple of weeks have looked at. Thank you for joining us, and I'll be in touch with you a little bit later on in the weekend to send you the links. And my thanks to the panelists as well too. This has been really helpful for all of us. And with that, I will bring our session to a close. Thanks everyone. Have a good day. Go wash your hands.